This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Welcome to Truly Independent. I'm Garrett Batty alongside my co-host Darren Smith. Each week, we'll go in depth with guests, industry experts, and we'll even share our own experiences, all with the goal of demystifying the independent film process. This season, it's all about the script, from the first spark of an idea to a polished final draft, breaking it down for scheduling, budgeting, and ultimately shooting. We'll walk through every step it takes to get from page to production. Welcome to Truly Independent. Welcome to another episode of Truly Independent. I'm Garrett Batty, and with me as always is my co-host, Darren Smith. Darren, how are you?
I'm good, man. Had a nice weekend, family in town, feeling rested. I can take on the world, which is what I'm going to need to do over the next 4 months for this movie.
Yeah, you are in the middle of brotherhood. It's always the middle, no matter what stage you're in.
Yeah.
You're always in the middle of it. You're up to your eyeballs in brotherhood, post-production, and promoting.
Yes, we are. Some good promotions came out about our teaser this last week, so that was fun.
Congrats.
Yeah,
I saw the release on, was it coming soon?
Yeah, coming soon. Got the exclusive. Playbill just followed on this morning, so we're getting press on both the Broadway side and the film side, so it's good. We got an amazing team that we put together for this one, a bespoke, hand-selected team of marketing people for this movie to try and see if we can pull it out. The goal is 1 million people seeing this movie in theaters. That is a huge goal. And we currently do not have the ability to do that with any sort of current reach. Trying to get 1 million people out is not a reality with our current reach. So it's okay. We got 4 months, less probably than 4 months, to go from where we are to where we need to be to pull that goal off. And it's exciting. We're all aligned. We're charging ahead every day. It's pretty fun.
It's fun, Darren, because this is a repeat of the cycle of why we started this initial podcast.
It really is.
And if you listen to our very early episodes, it's about, okay, we set a goal for distribution for Faith of Angels, and we're going to do it. And you would listeners followed us for 6 months, and we went through the entire distribution process. And now to be doing it again with a different goal, but similar process, it's cool to see. So good luck, and I'm excited. So this will be neat. We'll just follow along.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. We'll keep people updated. With that in mind, how are your projects? You've got 2 or 3 still kind of in the works. Which one's edging ahead right now? What's the status of The Pearl and Where the Dog Heals?
Everything's coming along. We're doing these movies through the Help Them See Foundation. And so the donors are coming in, which we're very grateful for. They recognize the importance of a tax rebate, and the people that are donating are getting that tax rebate at the end of the year. And they're just excited about it. These are mission-driven movies, so there's that faith-based element to them, and that really is opening a lot of doors for us. The Pearl is moving right along, and then Where the Dog Heals, we're actually doing a big ad push in Atlanta right now to promote potential donors to come in for Where the Dog Heals. It's exciting. And it leads us into our topic for today, Darren, which
It certainly does.
The real costs of making a movie.
When you brought this idea up, I was like, oh yeah, we could talk about this.
There's a lot of headlines right now about a couple of independent movies that are just blowing up the box office, which is amazing. Where we have Obsession and Backroom, and each of those films just broke 300 million this weekend at the box office, domestic and international, worldwide box office. And their budgets that they're saying, one was made for $750,000 or $800,000, and the other was made for $10 million from A24, which are both extremely. The fact that kind of an $800,000 and a $10 million is the same category of low budget movie, it's worth talking about.
Yeah, I would say they're not the same, but mainly because of where they came from. Backrooms was definitely started as a project at $10 million, whereas Obsession was a festival pickup by Focus Features for a big chunk of money. And that's where I think they really differ from a truly independent film like the ones we make, and the ones that we're talking about in this show is, if you can get it, great. If Focus Features or A24 or Blumhouse Atomic Monster are going to come onto your project and help you get it out there and get it made and make it really good, then yeah, say yes to those things, because then you have a lot more resources to get your movie out in the world. And now we've seen both of them pass, I think, $250 million in box office. They just became a huge thing. I'm surprised that in theaters, this is a different conversation for a different day, but like, why weren't theaters doing horror double features every night? It's because they can't do that. They have this clean screen rule where they can't share screens that way because the deals they make with these distribution companies. That's another topic for another day.
Gotten some of the Barbenheimer type
Yeah,
pattern.
it certainly had the word of mouth of Barbenheimer.
So where do we go with that? So because these are, so you say, okay, hey, $800,000, I can come up with that, and now we're going to make a movie. But I wanted to find out or talk about the real cost of making a movie.
Yeah. What's interesting, and I think it speaks to what we're going to talk about today, we're talking about the real cost of making a movie. The thing that stood out to me through this whole Backrooms and Obsession saga is there was a behind the scenes pay controversy that came up. So I saw it before it actually went viral, because I don't think I follow her, this art director named Sally Choi. She was the art director on Obsession, which was a movie that, again, was publicly made for $750,000. And she revealed that she made $6,761 after taxes for her work on the film, around $300 a day. And the reason it became this big thing wasn't because she was underpaid. It's because she was compensated on the back end. Because the movie went on to make, it's still in theaters, but made over $250 million. 300 a day is not a low rate for a $750,000 movie. But granted, she did do other roles. She drove and shopped and did a whole bunch of other things. I don't know if this is the first bullet point on your list, but like, we're setting the context here of what is the real cost of a movie, and I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to whether they got more production value or less than what they paid for with actual dollars. But maybe the topic that we can kick off with is there's other costs that go into making a movie beyond just the equity that is put into a bank account and spent.
So the financial cost, that's the beginning, right? The financial cost is the movie budget, and it covers cast and crew, locations and equipment and everything, the post and music and insurance and legal and deliverables and marketing and distribution, right? So obviously not for 800,000, they're not doing marketing and distribution.
Right.
But financial cost is just the beginning. We raise money, you say, hey, we're going to make Faith of Angels for $1 million or whatever it is. And those costs are covered, paid for, because we write the check to people that work on the movie. So then there are these hidden costs, or these, hidden costs, which would be that unpaid prep, the art director that's driving around picking up props, and then travel and sometimes meals or festival or platform fees. And then there's also the emotional costs, right? And holy cow, we are putting this movie out there, and even though we're making $300 a day on it, it's costing me emotionally. I'm away from my family. You literally cannot take any other jobs. You're potentially losing opportunities while you're working on this movie.
Yeah. Well, and especially at this budget level where there are industry standard rates, but when you get under $1 million, a lot of the wage rate sheets and stuff from the unions and the guilds basically says based on what you can negotiate, right? There is no set rate when you're at ultra low budget or modified low budget for SAG or for DGA or even IATSE. A lot of times they're just like, try to get a fair rate, because they aren't union shows a lot of the time. I don't know if this was or wasn't. I don't think it was, because she talked about potentially flipping the show, meaning it was a non-union show, and flipping it would have made it a union show, which means they would have had the protection of certain wage base rates and back-end participation that are built into those agreements. We're not here to talk about whether or not she should have flipped the show or whether or not it was fair pay, because I think it was because she signed a contract. She signed an agreement that said, yeah, I will accept that amount of money for that amount of work.
And I think that's what we try to do on our movies as well. That's what I try to do, say, be very clear and very upfront. I don't do deferred payment on movies. I don't buy into that because those are costs that are, I don't know, I just don't like the idea of going into that debt for a movie that you don't know. We just don't ever know if it's going to recoup or do well or not.
Yeah.
So we try to get a very clear agreement with every cast and every crew member. Here's your fee. Here's what I'm paying you for the movie. And whether it's money or credit or whatever it is, whatever they agree to, that's what we pay them.
Yeah. Well, and on our movies that we've done together, I can say that our rates that we've paid actors and crew, even though we were non-union, were still fair rates. We took the SAG rates and we said, we're paying that. We took the union rates, we said, we're paying that, as far as I remember. If someone quotes this, I'm trying to be accurate here.
Yeah.
Don't quote me. But that's what I would do as a line producer, is I would go, what is the SAG rate? And let's match that. And because we were filming in the middle of 2 strikes on Faith of Angels, it was even higher. So it was like 405 or 410 a day instead of 380.
Yeah, it was a good amount. It was people were saying yes to the project.
Yeah.
Because the rate was accurate to what they may be getting, would they be working on a SAG show.
Exactly.
Now, that obviously made the budget higher for us, but that was something we were ready and willing to do. My first movie, the budget was $125,000 for the feature film. There is no way to not do the work, right? The work of making a movie is the same amount of work. Just that goes into a production day, right? So you say, okay, here's a production day. We're going to do 16 production days. That requires X amount of work for prep. And I usually say, hey, 3 days of prep per 1 day of shooting with a minimum of a 5-day shooting. So you just kind of know we got 3 weeks of prep, shooting 5 days, and then the movie grows from there. So if it's a 25-day shoot, we're gonna times that by 3 and have a lot more prep. Now the question is, how do you pay for that? And if the budget is $1 million, you pay everybody at their rate. If your budget is $125,000, you can't not do the work. So you either have to do the work or the people you hire have to do the work, but they have to be willing to do it for a much lower monetary fee.
Yeah. And there's a cost associated with the work that has to be done, right? So you can pay for it financially with money that you have in a bank account, or you can pay for it a number of different ways. And I think that's where a lot of this debate that we started and set the context with comes from, is if people are investing in other ways besides financially, does that create that sort of debt that you're talking about? So that doesn't need to be the point of the conversation today, but we should talk about what are these other forms of cost? What are the other ways that we cover the cost of a movie? Because like you said, it has to be shot, it has to be edited, it has to be distributed. There are costs involved. And whether you're getting those donated or subsidized or for free or for pay, they have to be paid somehow, right?
Yeah, and I think in an independent approach to things, oftentimes those are free. Those are just sunken costs or hidden costs that everybody, because we're all on this together making an independent film, we want the film to succeed. Usually we're signing on not because of pay, but because they're either our friends or it's a favor fee, or we want to be able to use this for our reel or whatever it is. There are reasons that we're saying yes to the low rate of the project. As a producer, for me, I've always said, hey, if the film succeeds, we should all succeed. Now, where I differ from that is I don't make financial obligations based on the film's success. I know that, and I want to be sensitive how I say this, when I'm making a movie, it's 5 years of my life, right? We're writing it, directing it, raising the money for it, producing it, releasing it.
Yeah.
I can tell you this, the crew that worked on movies that become recognizable, they've worked on way more movies than I have and gone on to do bigger and better things, which is wonderful, which is great. But Faith of Angels is a small part of that. Fantastic. That's wonderful. I'm glad I could help them.
Yeah. That's an important point, because you're talking about, we're coming on 4 years since we started working on it in September of 2022.
Yeah.
So 365 times 4 is almost 1,500 days, so 1,460 days. Most of the people that worked on Faith of Angels spent between 1 and I would say 75 days on that project. Even those that were like a month of prep and a month of shooting, it's 60 days. So let's give them another month and say it was 90 days, right? That is a orders of magnitude of scale as far as how much time and commitment and investment that you've put into it, which is an order of magnitude more than I've put into it, which is an order of magnitude more than the crew has put into it, right? So
Which is why I love the argument, I love the discussion, but right now I currently side with, I don't feel like if the movie's a home run and suddenly it just starts, if we're making Obsession, we paid $800,000 for it, and the distributor is able to, milk $1 million out of it, everybody's going to take their fee. The distributor and all of that company and all the theater people and everything are currently working on the film while, and I'm just using this because it's topical, while the production designer is potentially out there working on movie number 3 and 4 and 5 that she has this year. And so I'm less inclined to say, yeah, give everybody who ever stepped on set more money. Just make sure the movie does very well, so that becomes a huge calling card for their next gig, and their next rate gets to go up. That's my take on it. Was that unethical?
I don't think it's unethical. I think it's totally a fair stance. I think if we're just talking about, I don't claim that my stance is right or better. It's just what feels aligned with how I want to be as a producer, which is I'm installing what's called a CAMA, a collection account management agreement. Once we have every single person that we know will touch this movie, because we still don't have sound and visual effects and color and finishing and stuff. But what it allows a producer to do is show, here's how the money's going to get paid out. And it's built, it's public, it's something that people can reference and go check and see, oh, if this movie makes $10 million, here's how much I would make from a back end standpoint. And backing up even a step further is I think that it's important for the health of our industry for producers to build in back-end participation for the cast and crew of every movie, especially non-union productions, because those protections aren't there. I'm doing everything I can to make sure people are paid fairly and paid the union rates, but there's no built-in participation unless the producer says, I'm going to build that into the agreement. So what it looks like is the producer says, okay, on the back end of the movie, if it does well, there's a split and a percentage goes to the filmmakers, and that pool of filmmakers gets some sort of participation based on how much time, their role, etc. So on Brotherhood, for example, 50% or so goes to the production company, and 50% or so, it's not set in stone yet, which is why I'm saying or so, goes to the cast and crew. So that's really healthy amount for Craftsman Films. And honestly, on this one, it's Craftsman Films and Ross's company. And so the two of us are the production companies, even though Craftsman Films is the actual production company on the movie. There's participation for both of our companies and then cast and crew. So it's probably more like a third each, if I'm remembering correctly. So what that means is everybody gets some back-end participation. And because it's important for the cast and crew who, if they go a month without work, they're hurting, to maybe ease that pain a little bit. To say, look, if we want a healthy, thriving industry, people in this industry need to be able to survive longer than a week or two without working, because that's how people burn out. That's how people leave the industry, because it's not sustainable anymore. And if you're compounding that with productions that are working people 12, 14, 16-hour days with not enough turnaround, overtime, meal penalties, etc., 6-day weeks, then they're really going to burn out. So hopefully they're making a lot of money on that, overworking them. There's definitely two sides to this thing. But where I'm placing my stance as a producer and with my company is everybody participates in the back end.
I think that's very generous, Darren. I don't think you're alone in doing that. And we've done that on that first film that we did for 125. It was higher visibility positions, whether it was cast or DP or associate producer. We all shared a little pool of money. When the movie recouped and started doing very well, everybody benefited, just a few little points, which is fine. Where I get, I think, protective of just that producer approach to things, saying, look, for independent film to succeed, we have to acknowledge that we're all doing this independently, meaning to cover these costs, these expenses of budget, we're gonna find somebody to give us financial green money so that we can make the movie. And then whatever else we don't have to do to cover the work, we all have to pitch in and do. Now, I'm asking my cast and crew to trust me as a producer and director that their effort is going to be seen. My track record is going to get this into theaters. This is not going to be a movie that doesn't get finished or doesn't get a fair shot at being released. Great. And so by them saying yes, already when they put that on their resume or credit list or wherever, there will be recognizable work that they will be recognized for, which is great. Where it comes to, if the movie makes $10 million or whatever it is, 20 million, for me to be contractually obliged to then pay that, I don't know yet the amount of work it's going to take me or a distributor or a team to get that movie to make $10 million. There is no push the button and then we all just sit and watch the movie make money. There is just this exorbitant amount of work that goes on and on for as long as that movie's making. And all of that effort is still benefiting them because they are associated with their creative efforts are associated with the movie. So there's that non-monetary benefit that they're getting. Just to play devil's advocate, and I realize I'm probably gonna just come across as as a little bit of a miser, but I don't get compensated for their successful projects that they go on to make while I'm still working on my movie. Do you know what makes sense?
Yeah, and again, my stance is not that your stance is wrong. So I think there's a fair point to be made either way. I think my stance is that I wouldn't have a movie without them, right? And so it doesn't feel right for me personally, individually, to have 100% of the upside or to share it between me, Ross, and the investors. It just doesn't sit right with me. And that's a personal values statement rather than an industry values statement.
You're talking about financial upside, though.
Yeah, which is more of a variable thing as opposed to an obligation. So nowhere am I saying when this movie gets released, you get $10,000. There's no amount of money that's guaranteed. It's all contingent on if and when this makes money. First, the investors get paid back, plus their preferred return, plus any recoupment or deferred payments owed to myself, who's deferred half of my pay, and anybody else that's deferred or owed money. Yeah. And then it goes into this profit sharing mode, right? So the movie has to do quite well. If it's a $2 million movie, it's got to make probably $5 million in theaters before we start seeing any sort of back end money, right?
Because the question is, how much does it cost you to make $5 million in the theaters?
Yes. So but what I love about something like a collection account management agreement is it's all very public. See, the movie made $5 million in theaters, but it actually only brought in 2.1 into the actual bank account, and that was first paid back to the investors, and they're 85% recouped. Great. What are they going to do? They're going to go get on Instagram and tell everybody, go see the movie. It's doing so well. We're getting so close, right? Like all of a sudden they're cheering the movie to do well and supporting it that way, which is another cost that we would have to pay for an actor or a crew member to go and talk about the movie. But now we get that for free on our side. There's no financial cost, but it's capital that they're putting into it. It's their social capital. It's their audience capital that they're putting in and contributing to the movie. I think there should be a return for that. So I don't know. Ultimately, it comes down to there is a reality of a cost. And by you and I having this conversation, we could give this episode to every single crew member we work with in the future and say, this is how it works for us, for 3Coin, for Craftsman, for when you're working with us, this is what it looks like. And they can buy in or not. And they can go, yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm going to do that. I'm going to work with you guys. Sounds awesome. But I think where people get upset is where they feel like they contributed above and beyond the financial compensation that they got, and that there was no compensation for the other forms of capital that they invested, their time, the emotional cost, the opportunity cost, like you mentioned, etc., where they're going, I put in all this extra work that I didn't get compensated for, and I don't get to participate in the upside, and it feels wrong.
Yeah. And I guess that's where I'm asking them to make the same observation that we're making is, what is the compensation that you actually are receiving? Because to go back to the story, the art director for Obsession is making a lot more than $300 a day compensation because of the success of the movie.
My hope is that this coming out and becoming a huge thing in the industry doesn't prevent her from getting more work because she's seen as a risky hire or something like that. I don't think it will, because I think the way she laid out her argument was very fair.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
She clearly is good at what she does. I think the movie, to do an $800,000 movie and make it look as good as that looks just from the trailers. Okay, hey, she went above and beyond. I'm always very grateful. My production designer on my first film is Whitney Donaldson, and she was just this student out of film school, came on, did way more than I even understood what she was doing. And the movie was super low budget. And then she went and worked at Disney and was assistant on Tomorrowland. And for her to have that step up and go, man, she just worked. She was so cool and did so much work and made our film look great. And I couldn't be more excited for her. So I think that
Yeah.
there are opportunities. There are great opportunities that are not, hey, pay me more money because the movie did well. No, if the movie gets seen, you're going to get a better job because of it.
I think I inadvertently turned our cost episode into a compensation episode, so I apologize. We'll have to go back and fix the title now. It's really good conversation to have, and I've wanted to not debate, but have a conversation around this very specific controversy that's shown up in the last few months in our industry, because Obsession was initially made as an independent movie. It went to the Toronto Film Festival and got bought there by Focus Features, or a deal was struck. I don't know if they outright bought it or if it was a minimum guarantee with some participation after and stuff. But there was probably a cap on what the filmmakers made that she's complaining about not sharing the stuff. And Hollywood isn't obligated to compensate the filmmakers that got paid on a movie a year ago, because their agreements are in place. Had to have been solid in order for Focus to pick that movie up. Everybody had been paid. Everybody was fairly compensated because they wouldn't have signed the agreement if they weren't. So it's not a question of, does Focus Features owe this art director more back end? No, that's not the agreement is not between her and the distributor. Really, I think it does come down to, I think both of the things we're saying are true, which is she has an amazing breakout hit that she can say, I did that. And she can point to that for the rest of her career. And her rate should at least double, if not triple, from that movie. And really, I think a big thing for the filmmakers that are listening today, at least from my side, Garrett, is if that's something where, if this situation rubs you the wrong way, if you feel like she was unfairly compensated, then the action to take, in my mind, is to build that into your agreements and say something along the lines of, okay, if you're offering me $300 a day and the going rate is $350, then I'm making a $50 a day contribution to the success of this film. And that's a monetary contribution. And I expect that to be considered an investment. And I don't think every director or producer is going to say yes to that. That's you advocating for yourself and saying, I'm putting in some sweat equity. I'm subsidizing, I'm contributing, I'm investing in this project. It's not dollars coming out of my account into yours, but it's time that you're not paying me for that I should be compensated for. So I'm happy to consider that an investment and get a percentage of the back end accordingly. I think that is totally fair. And if a crew member came to me with that offer, I would seriously consider it. And I would look at myself and go, wow, either I need to raise my rates to be matching what they need, and then there is no question about back end pay because I'm paying the rate that they're asking. Or I go, yeah, you're right. You are investing with your time and your sweat equity into this project, and that deserves some sort of compensation on the back end. So that's what I would say to the listener is, if you feel like it's rubbing you the wrong way, it's not necessarily a distributor studio problem. It's a issue that you have with the agreement that this art director struck with the producers on the movie that she signed on for, and it wasn't baked into her agreement to have any back end participation. Or just work on only union movies.
Yeah, there is that. But in order to get to that point, you need to develop your skill, which you do through working on independent movies like Obsession. Yeah,
This
it is
is
a tricky
very much
snare.
an outlier. I identify that. This
And
is a
I'd want
one.
to, yeah, that's a very good point. Here we're talking at length about a bolt of lightning that
Yeah.
you never know when that's going to happen. And Darren, I hope you know I am in agreement with you. I'll tell you, before Corey Barker, is that his name, the director?
Curry
You know,
burger.
Curry, excuse me, who's very talented. Before he plunks down a big chunk of change for a brand new house or whatever, it would be a generous offer to go back and split some of that with his cast and crew. Just those that, and but as a producer, I would feel if I am trying desperately to get a movie made and it's 100,000 or 800,000, I've got to identify those key individuals who are willing to just come in and risk it with me,
Yeah.
which is what the camera allows you to do. But to just increase the amount that I'm going to be paying them based on the amount of work that I'm going to be doing for the next 5 years to make the movie succeed. If it does, I'm going to look for people that are willing to work hard and take what I'm able to offer.
Yeah. Well, let me throw one other thing into the mix here, which supports your statement, which is the development cost of a movie, which is shouldered by the production company or the producer or the director, right? How much free work did you do writing the script, developing it, fundraising, putting the team together before any money started going out to you? That was all investment of your time and your equity, right? That went into it. So that needs to be compensated. And if your production company is not solvent, if you as a director producer are not solvent, there's no other movies that come later. So
Right.
it behooves the production company to be solvent. There should always be a chunk, and it should be the right amount to stay solvent, to stay profitable, to develop the next movie and the next, so that you can keep making movies and keep filmmakers employed. That's part of the gig. So you're making a choice in your career to say, I want to be a film worker. I want to go and get paid a day rate or a week rate to go and be on a project. And that's my compensation. I'm going to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. I'm not going to worry about back-end participation. If you choose the other path, which is more like the producer path, and you're starting your own production company, then you are heavily reliant on that back end coming back to your company and generating revenue for the next project so you can develop it and get the next one stood up, but also pay you for all the time that you're spending in between movies so that you can stay afloat and be there for the next one.
I think it's a fair price. I think the idea is you got to find a fair way to compensate them, that if the shoe were on the other foot and you go, hey, we went to TIFF or we went to our film festival, the movie did not get picked up, it did not make a deal, and now it's literally worth the price of a $4 rental at Amazon, and I'm going to work for the next 5 years trying to convince people to rent the movie for $4. I can't go back to my crew and say, hey guys, can you kick back some of that money I paid you to make this movie? That doesn't work that way. And so you have to balance it out. As a crew member, yes, as an art director, I'm going to take $7,000. I'm going to make this movie. I'm going to put everything, my heart and soul into it. And that's why this person's reaching out to me, because they know that about me. Great. And guess what? That person's not going to call you back and say, the movie didn't make money. I had to mortgage my home to pay the bills on the movie. Can you help me out? No, there's no obligation to that way either. So I think that it's just shared risk on both sides.
And I love that we're ending on risk, because I think that risk-reward balance is what we're ultimately talking about here. If there's zero risk on the side of the filmmaker, totally justified to say there's no reward because you didn't risk anything. But as soon as they cross into risk territory, that's where maybe some reward should happen. So I'm very curious to hear the audience's feedback on this one. I don't know that it was as much of a debate, me saying, here's my side, here's your side, right and wrong, but more of a really good conversation I've been looking forward to on this topic. But I'd love to hear feedback from the audience. Like, where do you stand? What do you think? Leave some comments on the posts, the videos, the things that we put out there on this one, because I'm very curious to see where our audience sits on this topic.
It's a fun discussion to have. Thank you, Garrett, for having it.
I think so.
That's very informative. Let's go with the camera, and everybody acknowledges there's a risk here.
Yeah.
Love it.
Amazing.
Okay, man, another good episode.
Indeed.
Okay, give us a share and a like, and thank you again to our listeners.
Amazing. Okay, see you next week.
This season of Truly Independent is supported by the Help Them See Foundation. Help Them See is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting feature films that inspire faith, hope, and connection. By partnering with filmmakers, the Help Them See Foundation brings meaningful stories to life and shares them with audiences worldwide, making a lasting cultural impact through the power of cinema. Learn more and discover how you can be part of the movement by visiting helpthemseefoundation.org. Thanks for joining us. Please share and subscribe for future episodes. Today's episode was edited by Sam Hansen and produced by 3 Coin Productions.